Welcome to John Martin Talks, where we battle ignorance and apathy daily. The growing ignorance of just how special this experiment we call the United States of America is, and the apathy that we can't or won't do anything and everything to save her. Well, ladies and gentlemen, guess what? We're back. Yes, like a nightmare, we're back, baby, and sorry for a couple of little glitches there at the beginning. As you can see, we're in a brand new studio. We're still trying to tweak a few things out. So this first show be a little bit abbreviated. It's a little bit of a test case, so bear with us. But as you can see, and I don't know if this is good news or not, but I'm in HD, baby. I'm coming at you live. We have been broadcasting from my house. At least I have on my cell phone. So some of you have been asking, why has it been blurry, that type of thing. If you've been with the show from the beginning, and literally we are just past our first year of operating, we started in June of last year, you would know that we started out in a brand new studio, full bore with backing of people. We were part of a group of shows in something called Excluded. Well, no need to get too deep into the details, but basically, and it didn't have anything to do with our viewership because it steadily was increasing. Matter of fact, it was getting bigger every day when the plug was pulled on the backing for the studio. So we then determined that we were going to stay alive anyway, anyhow. And so I did it from my house. Of course, the quality was poor. We couldn't do any assets. But thanks to some good friends and some good supporters, we are back now. We'll be coming to you. Our plan is to come to you live every day at 8 o'clock, Monday through Friday, right here in our brand new confines, in our hidden bunker, as they say, that we have here. Well, let's get to a few stories of the day. And as I say, this is going to be an abbreviated show. Probably we're always going to start at 8, end at 9, that kind of thing. So hopefully you will like it in HD. And if you're just tuning in for the first time, you're saying, who is that red man? Yeah, I'm a person of color, man. I basically go fishing just about every weekend, especially this time of year on the Gulf of Mexico. They call me the salty dog. If you're new to the show, you'll say, well, what's he doing with that fish up there? Well, this is my psychic sidekick, Billy Bob Bass, and he keeps me straight on the show. He has a Twitter following. It's at Billy Bob Bass 1, and mine is at John Martin Talks. And the hat there says, make fishing great again. So I just came off a fishing trip yesterday morning, and one that lasted a whole weekend, and it was plenty hot. So I get this color. No, I don't need a nurse. I'm actually married to one, and a man needs a good nurse. But I'm red. I'm a red man because I stay out in the sun probably too long. All right, we're going to get to a few stories today as time allows. Bear with us. This comes to you from the Washington Post. Trump's erratic policy moves put national security at risk, experts warn. 3 policy turnarounds by President Trump this month have underscored his freewheeling governing style in an approach that some experts warn sends mixed messages and puts U.S. national security at risk. I love how they go, some experts. Usually these so-called experts are people that Trump didn't hire, and they're pissed off. They can't get a job in the regular flow of things like they've done in the past with administrations both Democratic and Republican, and so they don't like Trump. They're never Trumpers because he never hired them. That's the reason. Trump's approach on 3 issues, U.S. immigration and customs enforcement raids, Mexican tariffs, and Iran, is politically risky, this according to the Washington Post, for the president, who is increasingly employing brinkmanship in an effort to achieve key policy goals, and I would say politically risky. By whose standards is it politically risky? Is it really politically risky if you were one of the 20-some thousand people that were there to, and I was part of that, by the way, grateful to be there representing Citizens for Trump at Trump's kickoff campaign last Tuesday in Orlando. If you haven't seen, we did some great man on the street type videos there. Check them out. You can go directly to John Martin Talks Facebook page. If you hadn't already, please do so, like it, and share it with others. You can also see the complete coverage, because I was part of a team effort for Citizens of Trump, on their Citizens for Trump website. I mean, not website, I'm sorry, but Facebook site. But you can catch John Martin Talks live now every day at 8 o'clock on the networks, including, by the way, Deplorable Resistance, Media Measures, and just a few. If you'd like to be a part of our family of networks, just contact us directly, John Martin Talk. Send me a message, and we can certainly make that happen. But politically risky, as I say, I don't think if you're one of the dregs or deplorables that were listening to the Trump rally or at the Trump rally, that you think that President Trump has been crazy at all. Crazy only in the sense that he's made, promises kept. But back to the story here, it says, on Sunday, Trump's defenders, including Vice President Pence, argued that the president showed admirable caution in refusing to move forward with a military strike on Iran in light of the potential casualties. Pence said on CNN's State of the Union, the president demonstrated the restraint that the American people I know, admire, and are grateful for. Now, Pence gave a fantastic speech at the Trump rally as well, but Pence went on to say, Iran should make restraint make restraint for the lack of resolve. All options remain on the table. Now, you want to know about hearing from an expert? We just heard from one in Mike Pence. No one is more of an expert on this type of stuff, and especially on what President Trump is doing, than Mike Pence. What a great vice president he is. But president's critics, talking about President Trump, are trying to turn his often erratic approach into an issue for voters. So they say it's erratic. So the fact that Trump says one thing, sometimes does something else, changes his mind, it reminds me a little bit of something my late father once told me. He said a wise man often changes his mind, but a fool never does. So the fact that President Trump is changing his mind, or at least the perception of it, to me, it actually shows that he's critically thinking. It's not erratic at all. It is actually part of his persona. With the first Democratic debates of the 2020, God help us here in Florida, I think they start Wednesday and Thursday. We'll certainly cover them. But God help the folks down in South Florida. You're about to be inundated by a large gaggle of idiots. But with the first Democratic debates of 2020 presidential races days away, several White House contenders seized on Trump's calling off the Iran strike as the latest in a pattern of reversals. So the first one we're going to hear from is Bernie Sanders. Bernie Sanders said on CBS he described President Trump's actions with Iran as similar to somebody setting a basket full of paper and then putting it out. So what does he want to do? Channel his inner John McCain and go bomb, 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 bomb Iran. Remember that when John McCain say that? I mean, what happened to the Democratic Party? Of course, Bernie's not much of a Democrat. He is in this current batch, but the Democratic Party used to be the party anti-war. Now they're the party of perpetual war. What's up with that? But not to be outdone, of course, Kamala, where's my Willie Harris, struck a similar note on CBS's Ed O'Keefe. She said, I don't believe that anyone should receive credit for a crisis of their own making. A crisis of their own making. So the Iran crisis, if you want to call it that, she's insinuating, is another manufactured crisis by Donald Trump, man. Give me a break. So Donald Trump has manufactured this crisis with the people that start their morning out. When you say good morning, Ayatollah, his first words are death to America. And, and I guess they don't say pass the bacon, but death to America. I guess Donald Trump should have just done the Obama way. Just cut them a check, baby. Just pay them off. Just give them pallets of cash, man. Pallets and pallets of cash. But, of course, Spartacus Booker, he had to go on. He argued that Trump's handling of Iran was meant that even when there's strikes on tankers, we see again our allies very skeptical to even believe us right now. Well, don't have my traditional coffee cup. That will be back tomorrow. So he says that Cory Booker says that our allies now are skeptical. I don't know if they're skeptical or just cowardly. Have you ever thought about that? Maybe they're just the cowardly lions or maybe they're just waiting for the U.S. to lead from behind and they don't know how to act when President Trump is actually being the leader of the free world. But Booker went on to say, this has been folly. There is no strategy here. We have a president that seems to be doing this like a reality TV show and trying to build more drama and trying to make foreign policy by tweet. Did he say tweet? He's tweeting. There's others that do that. The president is the Twitter twat, or whatever you want to call it. He's King Tweet, baby, by the way, so don't even try to go there. But let me ask you, what would Spartacus do? What would you do, Cory? What would you do? The Democrats, as I say, are now the party of perpetual war. Can you imagine what a President Booker would do? I can't either. You don't have to worry about it. Guess what? Well, that's one question we don't have to worry about because there will be no President Cory Booker. I make that prediction right now. But Larry Jacobs, he's one of these so-called experts, a political science professor at the University of Minnesota Humphrey School of Public Affairs, Humphrey, there's a good liberal for you, said that Trump's behavior has generated confusion about what the country's positions are. He goes on to say, and this is what you got to love about these progressives. You know, the only Republicans they really like is never Trumpers and dead ones. So it's amazing to me how popular Ronald Reagan is among progressives now. But he's quoting Ronald Reagan. He says Ronald Reagan was very clear. There's no ambiguity about his views about the world and his willingness to pursue them. Now, this is the same guy they said was senile, right? I mean, that's what they were saying about him. Sometimes he, talking about Reagan, was criticized, but there was clarity and consistency and a pattern that was established. Yeah, I'm sure that you, sir, if you were old enough to be that, were a big supporter of Ronald Reagan. You guys support him now that he's dead, but I don't know, man, while he was alive. But and the thing about Reagan, let's just be honest with it. And this is not necessarily a criticism of Reagan, it's just a fact. The Ayatollah was in power when Reagan got there, and he's still in power today. So the presidents between Carter, when the Ayatollah kind of rose up, and Reagan, and all the way up through Obama, nothing's really changed in Iran except it's being worse and worse for the people there. So presidents on both sides of the aisle, including one of my favorites of all time, Ronald Reagan, they didn't really change the status quo over there. And they're talking about foreign policy in this article. Well, President Reagan, love him, hate him, whatever, and I think he was duped to a certain extent by the Democrats, but he gave us the first big amnesty wave that we had, and it's policies that were signed on by President Reagan during the time. As I say, I believe he was misguided and duped and naive when it came to the Democrats to a certain extent on this issue. But the millions of immigrants that we have, largely, the first big wave of them came under Ronald Reagan. It's just the way it is. So no wonder they love Ronnie Reagan. The main reason they love him is because guess what? The man's dead. And nothing's better than a dead Republican, according to these progressives. But this professor went on to say, with Trump in contrast, both our allies and our enemies are at a loss to understand what the president means. So they're confused about the president because our allies, our friends, and our enemies really don't know exactly what's going on. Well, if that's true, then maybe the president is doing the Sun Tzu deal. Maybe he's doing about keeping your enemies and your friends close and all that. Maybe it's the art of war. Maybe he's doing something smart. It goes on to say, last month, he, talking about President Trump, abruptly threatened to impose tariffs on all Mexican goods entering the country to force Mexico to tighten its southern border against migrants fleeing Central America. They're not migrants. I'm going to continue to point this out. They're not migrants. They're illegal aliens violating the sovereignty of the United States, period. I'm not saying they're necessarily all bad people, but they're not just migrants. You know, it's not like a flock of butterflies coming across the border. He gave Mexican authorities, talking about Trump, 10 days to show progress or face a 5% tariff on the roughly $346 billion in goods Mexico ships each year to the United States. So he's basically kind of laying out that Donald Trump is, is a disruptive force and hard to predict, and you would think that he's meaning that his policies are leading to bad results. But let's check the next part of this article. Now, this is according to the article. But the threat prompted Mexican officials to race to Washington to negotiate tougher border security security measures, ultimately including deployment of about 6,000 Mexican National Guardsmen to the country's border with Guatemala. So, it's radical, right? Let me just ask you, could it be, lean in snowflakes, could it be that President Trump is just a wee bit smarter than you guys? Is it even possible that President Trump might know something that you don't know? I mean, think about this. The first paragraph I read you said that, made it sound like Trump's policies toward Mexico were a disaster. But the article itself comes back and shows you that guess what happened? A crazy thing happened. They worked. Wow. Trump's threats spurred Mexico and Canada to accept provisions they had resisted in negotiations that resulted in the Trans-Pacific Partnership. So in other words, he scrapped NAFTA, got them to renegotiate. A 12-nation agreement negotiated by Obama, this is talking about the Trans-Pacific part of it. 12-nation, I'm a little tongue-tied today, just getting used to my confines here, by Obama administration that Trump quit on his 4th day in the White House. So Trump comes in, and within the first week, before the first week is over, he gets us out of the Trans-Pacific Partnership, the TPP as they call it. So Trump is winning, right? While others are whining. Think about this. Hillary, I know I hate to mention it, but Hillary was, at least during the campaign, was also opposed to the TPP. But what do you think would have happened if Hillary Clinton had become president? She would have reneged on that in a heartbeat, man, because it would have also meant Congress went Democrat, right? And they'd have went, even though she campaigned against the TPP, she would have went right with it. I don't think there's any doubt about that. Only President Trump had the cojones to actually do promises made, promises kept in his first week, for God's sakes. Trump has also engaged in serial rounds of tariff-heavy diplomacy with China. So he's been going back and forth with China for a while. He threatened last year to increase tariffs to 25% from 10% on $200 billion in Chinese goods starting January 1st. But 1 month before the deadline expired, over dinner, he negotiates over dinner with Chinese President Xi Jinping in Buenos Aires, Trump agreed instead to give negotiators 90 days to reach a deal. So he's negotiating. The fact that he doesn't come in there with just this rock solid and it's my way or the highway, that's part of the art of the deal. In the art of the deal, in his famous book, he reveals that everybody needs to leave thinking that they've won something. Otherwise, you really don't have a deal. So let me ask you, what would, and heaven forbid, let me take a little sip of this. Heaven forbid this, because I'm about to shake you up. What if, for God's sakes, we actually had a President Biden? How would he handle China? Well, we kind of already know, don't we? He'd just take the cash, man. He'd take the yin yang bling bling. That's what he would do. All you got to do is look at what he's done with his son, Hunter Biden. I mean, Hunter Biden has already got over $1 billion contract from the Chinese, while his father was vice president and was over there negotiating. Now, Donald Trump Jr. actually talked about this at his at the rally, the Trump kickoff campaign this past Tuesday, and he basically said that I think it was that Hunter had gotten like $1.5 billion, $1.5 billion contract. He said, imagine if I got $1.5, not billions, but $1.5. In other words, $1.50. What would the media say? He just said they'd have lost their GD minds. That's what he said, actually, and it took a roar of applause. So we know what the Democrats would do. It's all about getting paid. Meanwhile, Trump's announcement that he had directed ICE agents to conduct mass arrests of migrant families that have received deportation orders and subsequent 2-week delay of the operation appears to have fallen flat so far. So how so? How has it fallen flat? I mean, he's not actually done it. And of course, he's getting criticism about, well, you're announcing it too early and all this kind of stuff, man, like the Democrats would ever get behind it. Some Democrats on Sunday pointed out that Trump's advanced declaration of the raids appeared to inadvertently violate his administration's guidance. So what they're trying to say is kind of like how they criticized the mayor of Oakland for warning of an actual planned raid by the ICE agents on some illegal immigrants, that the mayor warned them to get the hell out of there, and they did, which, by the way, let some criminals loose that turned around and committed some pretty serious crimes. Check it out. You could Google it, but remember, Google is of the devil. You can take my word for it. You don't have to, but you can bank on it. But it's not the same thing. Trump has not gotten on the air and say, okay, we're going to be at the corner of 51st and 3rd at 2 o'clock this afternoon. He just basically says, look, we're getting ready to step up enforcement in a big way, and if you're here illegally, we're going to get your butts out. That probably, if anything, will have twofold effect. One, it might discourage a few that are hanging at the border or bum rushing our border right now from coming because you're going to get out, and it puts everybody on edge and makes them feel uncomfortable, and they might just leave on their own. So, you know, to compare what he did to what the Oakland mayor did is just more what they call ridiculous BS, as the president would say. But others, such as Senate Minority Whip Richard Durbin, otherwise known as Dick Durbin. I mean, his mother had it right, man. She named him Richard, but his friends that know him know that he is a dick. Dick Durbin balked at Trump's demand. We're going to talk a little bit more about something that Mr. Durbin has control over in just a moment if we have time. President Trump gives millions facing deportation 2 weeks before his next tweet, Durbin said, the number 2 Senate Democrat said on a Sunday tweet. So they bashed President Trump for tweeting by tweeting. So the best way to get at the president for tweeting is to tweet back at him. A Twitter war, which you will lose, my friend. Their fate depends on whether Congress would allow him, talking about the Trump, to indefinitely jail children. He says, is this America? Definitely, indefinitely jail children. It goes back to like Ocasio-Cortez and what she said, concentration camps. I mean, so I guess what we're going to do is we're just going to line up children and march them into the gas chamber, right? I mean, that's what the Democrats would accuse President Trump of, is that basically he is running concentration camps. I mean, which is absolutely ridiculous, and it's sad, and it is an absolute, anybody who plays a Nazi card has nothing left, but it's an absolute disgrace and an insult to people who actually suffered or had family members that did in a concentration camp to even remotely compare the two. It's crazy. All right, we got a few minutes left. We're gonna always start at 8 in the future and end at 9, just for your future use. This is a little bit of an experiment, so you're on the forefront of our new. If you're just tuning in, this is our brand new studio. We're just starting to broadcast from today, but things are going to get much better from here, and they look pretty good already, except maybe me in high definition. I'm looking at myself in a monitor. It's a bit scary, I realize. So anyway. So I was talking to you about Dickie Durbin, man. He comes from Illinois. Well, there's a story now talking about Illinois that it just shows that people are kind of fed up with the politics of the progressive left. This comes to you from a publication called Pew, like the Pew Research, from Chicago. It's known here as the Exodus. So they're all the Exodus. In other words, they're leaving. People are leaving Illinois in droves. Republicans blame the state's high taxes and its unfunded pension liability, which tops $130 billion. Democrats believe it's the state's lack of investment in education and infrastructure, while the Republicans actually blame it on other things. To me, I'm going to bet on the Dems. I'm betting on the Dems, man. I'm betting that the Dems are the ones, because they're running the show. The Dems have been running the show in Illinois in general, and certainly in Chicago for literally forever. One thing is certain, Illinois' population has declined by 157,000 residents over the past 5 years, making it one of only 2 states, West Virginia is the other, to lose people over the past decade. Now keep in mind that West Virginia was losing people because the Obama administration largely shut them down. And of course, Hillary Clinton promised more of the same, because Obama, under his leadership, Joe Biden was your vice president then, basically shut down all industry, which is centered around the coal mines in West Virginia. So if you're from West Virginia or you live in West Virginia and you want your economy to continue to grow, which it is, which way are you going to vote? I know which way you should. You might figure out my opinion as time goes on. Illinois' predicament, back to the article, is a perfect storm of declining manufacturing. NAFTA right there, destroyed places like Illinois and Chicago. Stagnant immigration. Now, what they're talking about is people not moving to Illinois, not necessarily immigration from illegal aliens. But nobody wants to move there. Who the heck wants to go to Chicago where, every weekend is like a shoot-up fest, man? It's like the Wild Wild West. You want to go do like a modern version of Westworld? Just go to Chicago, especially on the side where they're building Obama's library. You take your life in your hands. Man, you're over there. Declining birth rates. Well, the Democrats have a solution for declining birth rates, don't they? Abortion should fix that. Well, maybe not, but they're for it anyway. Young people leaving for college and never coming back. Well, I can tell you, as someone who's from here and graduated University of Florida, bikinis in Florida, I'm sorry, I don't have a cure for that one. If your kids are looking for sunshine and they come to a school in a place like Florida, don't look for them to come back anytime soon. Long-standing economic discrimination against black residents. Well, the Democrats, they could go back in time and bring that duck and cover. We were ducking and covering from the potential nuclear bombs, but now in some neighborhoods they need to duck and cover just trying to get to school because they get shot. Besides, for black folks in Chicago, everything's going to be better now. Isn't new Mayor Lori Lightfoot going to change everything? Isn't she going to be the solution? I mean, you got rid of Ron Emanuel. I don't blame you, but you replaced him with Lori Lightfoot. You want to see just how bad it is in Chicago as far as politically? Go back and you can go like on YouTube, which is owned by Google, which is of the devil, but check out the videos, debates between Lori Lightfoot and the other lady, another African-American lady. I can't remember her name right now. They were the last two standing and debating between the two. Go back and check them out. They literally were trying to get left of each other the entire time. So if you want to know how bad it is in Chicago, look at the last two choices in this past year's election they had for mayor, and that'll tell you about all you need to know. And then it goes on to say high housing costs. Well, surely more regulation is going to help that, right? What we need is more and more regulation. Let's go with that. And it's the last part of this paragraph says, and the continued draw of residents to the Sun Belt. Well, as I told you, I got no cure for people wanting to come to Florida or Texas or somewhere, except maybe jobs. Maybe if you keep electing and re-elect President Trump and you get rid of some of them wackadoodle progressives you have out there and actually bring jobs back to Chicago and Illinois, that might keep people at home. Just a thought. Let me check my time here. I got a few more minutes. Matthew Wilson, a senior research specialist at the University of Illinois in Chicago's Great Cities Institute, like Democrats know anything about that, said what's happening in the Prairie State may offer national lessons about the deindustrialized economy and how that creates inequity issues in wages and housing. Well, let me just tell you, we already got the lesson, sir. Those of us dregs and deplorables out here, we got the lesson. We voted for Donald Trump in 2016, and we're going to vote for him again in 2020. You guys voted for the Hildebeest in 2016. So is it any surprise that your state sucks right now? I mean, think about it. You go back and look at the map of where Hillary Clinton won and tell me that it didn't sucky right there. She won in places that are becoming the S-holes of America. California, Illinois, New York. People are getting the hell out of there. And we got a story on New York we probably won't have time to cover today. Same kind of thing happening, but it's the rich fleeing New York City, basically. But people are getting out. In the states where Hillary Clinton won, people are getting the hell out. Just don't bring your politics with you when you come to Florida, Texas, or wherever. But, and oh, by the way, I just wanted to mention this title of Chicago Great Cities Institute, where this gentleman works. Now, you name me one great city in America where it's still great, not they used to be, where things are going great, that a Democrat actually leads. I challenge you. That's a challenge. Put it in the Facebook line. By the way, let me know, because I can't think of one. For a Rust Belt state to thrive, Wilson said, officials have to focus on retaining and growing its manufactured sector by training workers. Now, this is the government brought to you by Democrats. Providing affordable housing and attracting new businesses. Not. Building up the manufacturing sector has to go hand in hand, Wilson said, with attracting high-paying jobs. Well, let me just tell you, I got a radical idea. I'm always trying to help here at JMT. One thing that won't change with our new studio is I'm always trying to help. I'm just trying to help. So I got a radical idea. How about just re-elect Donald Trump and stop voting for the Lightfoots of the world and the Hillary Clintons of the world and the Rahm Emanuels of the world? So Illinois, get behind, Chicago specifically, get behind the re-election of Donald Trump. It's the best possible outcome for you. If you want your state to thrive, re-elect Donald Trump. Now, I know that's radical, but you might want to check it out. Illinois has struggled with all of that, all of the above. Now, according to this poll, a 2016 poll by Southern Illinois University found that nearly half of Illinois' residents wanted to move to another state, citing taxes, weather, ineffective and corrupt local government, and lack of middle-class jobs. A March poll from the university found that 2/3 of Illinois residents think the state is going in the wrong direction. Now, first of all, I got a lot of listeners in Illinois, so I feel for you. I'm feeling for you out there. But you know, there's a definition of insanity. And I know you've heard this before, but if I say it, it certainly bears repeating. That one of the definitions of insanity is to do the same thing over and over and expect different results. But that's what you've been doing in states like Illinois, California, New York, doing the same thing over and over. You keep electing more and more progressive leftist Democrats. I guess that's all that's left in the leadership roles. And you expect it to get better. Show me one place in the nation that has consistently and persistently elected these hardcore leftist progressive Democrats to office and the state got better. Show me one. Just one. I'm just asking for one. Check my time. I'm almost over here. I've got a little bit more. Between 2017 and 2018, 114,000 more residents left Illinois than moved in from other states. Those who left mostly moved to Florida, Texas, and Indiana. All Trump states, by the way. This is according to IRS data. So you're moving to Trump country. I just ask you one thing. I'll welcome you here to Florida. Just leave your radical leftist politics, if that's what you have, at the state line in Illinois. Don't bring them here. Don't bring them to us, man. But Chicago is among a handful of metropolises that are losing their black residents, including Los Angeles, San Diego, and San Jose. So they're running from the S-holes that the Democrats have created. That's what they're doing. They're running. These cities are becoming. So let me just tell you, and we'll close the show on this, because there's a similar story for New York, and we just don't have time to get to it today. Lean in and listen to this, especially people of color, so to speak. If you're a black American out there, let me just tell you, I can't understand for the life of me if you get truly woke, as they say, and look at what's really happening around you before and after, before Trump and after, and tell me why you would do anything other than shout for the rooftops to re-elect Trump Pence in 2020. I just can't think of a reason. Because black unemployment, and this goes for Hispanics as well, at an all-time low. Black home ownership at an all-time high. Black business ownership, which is really the way to prosperous freedom, is at 400% higher than before Donald Trump. And the similar statistics for people of color across the board, Hispanics, women. I mean, if you just look at the economic numbers alone, which is what, I mean, at the end of the day, if you got money in your pocket and you don't have to worry about where you're going to pay your bills, you can figure everything else out. And let me just tell you, this is probably a little secret you don't know. It sucks to be broke anywhere. It doesn't matter where you move to. If you're broke, you're broke. Okay, so people take their problems like they think if I just move a geographic cure, it's going to cure everything. But if you're going to bring your politics with you, it's not going to cure anything. In fact, it's going to make that place sick. Because I used to work in a drug treatment center, and I can tell you, many people who are addicts simply think if I just change my location, all will be well. But guess what? You take your problems like luggage with you where you go. So the things that are keeping you oppressed, depressed, whatever, where you live, if you bring those things with you, or if you can't move and you keep voting for the same old BS, you're going to get the same old thing. So I would just challenge you out there, if you love and care about America, tell me why you would vote for anyone other than Donald J. Trump in 2020. Well, I hope you enjoyed the show today as much as I've enjoyed bringing it to you. I hope you appreciate all the work, I certainly do, that has gone in behind getting us back, and we're back, and it's only going to get better from here. But once again, a reminder, our plan is to be on live streaming every morning, Monday through Friday, from 8 o'clock to 9 o'clock. Please chime in. Tell us what you liked, what you didn't like. Help us tweak this thing a little bit, because ultimately the show is for you. Well, as I say, I've enjoyed it. Hope you have. But above all else, between now and then, as I say every day, and that won't change, have a blessed day.